Every month, as part of the design team at the Counterfeit Kit Challenge, we are inspired to create some of our own crafting supplies. I'm going to show you how I mimicked this sheet of pattern paper and how I upcycle old fabrics into trims. And while I will be mimicking this burlap, I want to share other ideas along that same line as well. So let's dive in. Hello everybody, welcome to Crafty Soup. My name is Misty, where I create with paper and photos in artful ways. All right, let's start with that piece of pattern paper, which is gold foiling on a white background. The best way I have of recreating this is to die cut the animal shapes and then draw gold lines on them with a gold pen. So I have a selection of dies here, and as I'm sorting through these, I'm deciding which ones will work the best. Like, this is a whole body deer, but I like the shape of the head better than the other deer I have. I'll just cut off the head. We'll see that a little bit later. It's not as bad as it sounds. But I have several animal dies, and a lot of them are a bit on the small side, so I'm going to do my best to mix and match what I have and fill in the entire sheet of paper. I pulled out a base sheet of 12 by 12 as well as a couple sheets of plain white cardstock. Now, the colors of the cardstock, while they are both white, they don't actually match. One is a creamier white and one is a bluer white, and you'll see how that shows up later. It is kind of bugging me a little bit, but I just need to live with it and let go of the imperfection. If I had wanted this to blend in a little bit more and really look like printing on the paper and not like pieces standing off the paper, I would have die cut those pieces with a second sheet of that 12 by 12. But I wasn't thinking that far ahead when I did this, and so it is what it is. All right, here is where I'm cutting off the head of that deer. I did kind of slit up towards the center of where the deer's chin would be, and that helps me kind of keep the edges even. And you'll see later a lot of them aren't perfect, but it's good enough for what I need. So then I'm going to use a ruler, and I wish I had a little bit of a smaller ruler, but having a clear ruler is a little bit helpful so I can see what I've already got going on as I add more and more to this. And I am just making triangular shapes. And then that's kind of how the animals in the inspiration are. And at this point, I have a few zones marked off, but I want to take a look at the inspiration again and see what else is going on. I did notice that they do have eyes and noses on their animals, typically in kind of these circle patterns. So I'm going to go ahead and add that onto my animal. And then I'm going to break up any of those zones that just feel a little bit large. And I'm trying to vary the angles of my triangles. And there we go. We have one large rabbit, and I finished one little bird before I felt confident that this is the direction I want to go. And I will die cut a whole bunch of these guys, and I will do all that drawing while I sit and watch a TV show with my husband. Before I get to that step, though, I kind of want to mark off on my base sheet of paper where all these pieces are going to go. So this is just a practice of using visual triangles to make a semi-random pattern. And here I'm really just trying to make sure that I have enough die cuts to fill up the entire sheet. I'm going to mark with a letter that represents each animal the area where I took it from so that when I go to put these back on the page, I don't have to refigure this all out again. So off camera, I did get all of those animals drawn on, and I've got a couple left here to glue onto my paper. Notice that I am letting some of the animals bleed off the edges, and I think that makes for a more organic look, because if they all stop right at the edges, it feels very stiff. So I was sure not to cut off any animal's head, because that would be awkward, but tips of ears or a slight trim to their bottom or hooves, things like that, and that will help. Now, I didn't get as much of that trimming done on the left side, but I did my best, and it will do. All right, moving on to the second project, we are going to upcycle some fabric. This fabric was originally a bed sheet, and then it got turned into a costume for a theater show for kids, and I'm going to repurpose it yet again into trim for my scrapbook layouts. So this is a basic cotton woven fabric, which means that it will fray at the edges if you don't finish it, and that's okay with me because I want that rustic look to go along with my kit. What that also means is you can just do a quick snip on the edge of it and rip it apart. You don't have to worry about getting your cuts straight or anything. I want to take a quick pause right here and say this isn't the only kind of fabric that you can upcycle. If you use t-shirt material, which is a knit fabric, it won't fray at the edges. It'll look a lot tidier. However, you then can't tear it and you do have to cut it into straight lines. All right, let's get back to that cutting. So I noticed that my fabric wasn't originally straight to begin with, so I gave it another clip and a rip, and now I have pretty much an even ribbon. And now I'm going to add it to a cup of tea. This is the leftovers from the tea that I was drinking, and I will take this to the kitchen, microwave it to get it hot again, and add a couple extra tea bags because this is not enough tea to color the fabric a darker color that I want it to be, because we're trying to mimic burlap, so that's what I'm going for here. As I unwind this and show you how I will dry this once it's done, I want to let you know that you can dye fabric with a lot of things from the kitchen. First of all, if you have food coloring in your kitchen, that will do it. But other things like beets will dye things pink, turmeric will dye things yellow. And when I say things, I really do mean cotton, because this won't work on synthetic materials well at all. All right, I'm just using my heat tool to dry this off. I've got my media mat underneath me, and I just put out a video on media mats. If you want to know more about these surfaces and what mat is good for what purposes, I'll link you up to that video. Notice how much lighter things dry. So know that when you're dyeing things, you want to make them darker than you think they're going to need to be at the very end. I am pulling off any strings that got tangled in this whole process, and I'm going to save those strings because I hate throwing things away. But once these are more tidy and not a tangled mess, I do like the rustic look, but not a tangled mess look, I will wind them up on a thick piece of, this is watercolor paper, and tidy them up so that I can store them with my kit using a couple of clips. With that leftover string, I will just clip it under one of the clips, and I will save it to use for one of those messy thread nest techniques that go under embellishments. So I will just save that here with this, and it will get used eventually. And that way I'm throwing away even less. All right, here is a look at everything now that it is finished. I have both my pattern paper and my ribbons all ready to go. So what do you think about these projects? Are they things that you would try? Have you upcycled anything interesting in your house? Drop me a comment and let me know, because I love to hear from you. Until next time, I hope you have an artful day.